Okay guys, so this is going to be a quick video looking at some sample planning. So today we're looking at exam paper for 2017, paper 1, text 1 and question A. Okay, so if you get that out in front of you, that's what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, we just want to look at the exam paper itself. Okay, so when you get onto the exam paper, you'll just go down to open up to the first page, and you'll see section 1, comprehending 100 marks, text 1, the world of poetry. Okay, so this text is based on 2 images that incorporate work by the poet Robert Montgomery, and the medium is the message, the power of public poetry, an edited article from the Guardian newspaper written by Martha Bowsels. The images are from the website robertmontgomery.org. Okay, so that's just a very brief introduction to what this text is about. Now, with all of these section 1 texts, the best thing to do is to go straight down to the questions, because you are very, very stuck for time. Okay, and we are just going to be looking at question A here. Okay, so when we look at the questions, we need to get straight down into what are these questions really all about. So if we look first at question A, part 1. Based on your reading of text 1, images and written text, what do you learn about Robert Montgomery's approach to poetry? Support your answer with reference to text 1. Alright, so we've got to pick out our key words, and the key words we're going to pick out here is Robert Montgomery's approach to poetry. Okay, that is really what we're being asked to look at here. Part 2. Robert Montgomery believes that poetry can benefit society. Okay, so benefit society is going to be a key word. In your opinion, have you benefited from engaging with poetry during your time at school? Give reasons for your answer. And the next keyword is, have you benefited from engaging with poetry? Okay, so these are our key aspects, and this is how you're going to break down a question in the exam. You just look to the key words. What is the important thing it's pointing out? Finally, part 3, compare the 2 images featuring Robert Montgomery's work that appear on page 2. Okay, so straight away we know we're going to be comparing. Comparing is a key word here. Okay, it stands out. You should address the following in the course of your answer: setting an atmosphere, the poems, and visual impact of the images. These 3 things are your purpose. This is what I was looking for you to comment on. So it is giving you the signpost of what to comment on. Setting an atmosphere, the poems, and the visual impact of the images. Okay, so once you have these 3 things highlighted, it's very, very easy to go back and forth between your questions and your text and know exactly what you're looking to do. So make sure you bring something, so highlight right on your exam paper in the exam. Make sure it's very clear. This is what I'm looking for. You shouldn't be reading questions over and over again. Right? You just read those key words so you understand what you're doing. Okay, so let's go back up to the actual text, and we'll spend a bit of time just looking through it. Okay, so if we look at the start of the text, there's 2 images. We look at image 1. Image 1 has some writing within it. Okay, so writing, the people you love become ghosts inside of you, and like this you keep them alive. Alright, so it's probably that text is going to be important. First thing you might notice is the lack of colour. Okay, it seems quite dull. Maybe it seems somewhere that you might go to reflect and contemplate. It's not exactly dark. Okay, you know, there's brightness to it. It's emanating from the poem and the inside. Okay, but it's definitely very grey and dull. You know, it's not a place where we're going to expect a huge amount of activity or excitement. Okay, it seems much more a place of contemplation. You may also see just in the middle here, perhaps there's a sense of pink or yellow there. Okay, it seems like it may be sunset going on at this time. Okay, so there's a few little things, and we'll see underneath Montgomery's work lit with recycled sunlight in Bexel-on-Sea. Okay, so we also know now on sea, it's beside the sea. Okay? We might not be sure what recycled sunlight is, okay, but it's something to keep in mind. Then if we go down to image 2, okay, this is a very, very different image we can see straight away, but once again there's text here that's clearly important to our understanding of the image. So we read it: when we are sleeping, aeroplanes carry memories into horrors we have given our silent consent to into the night sky of our cities, and leave them there to gather like clouds and condense into our dreams before morning. Okay, so straight away we're going to notice from the text here that this is It's a lot more violent and aggressive kind of text. Okay, if we compare it to the first one, the first one seemed quite relaxing. This seems maybe to be offering critique. I'd say the word aeroplanes and horrors particularly stand out here. Okay, maybe it's commenting on war. Alright, and we can see then underneath the caption of it says that Montgomery's work used in anti-war protests in Trafalgar Square in London. So we're getting a good bit of information here. Okay, we might know that both of these places are actually in England, and if you scroll back up to question 1 or to image 1, you notice there is actually a Union flag in the background there. We'll notice also here that there's people everywhere, and there's clearly protest and a lot of anger. So cut war, not welfare. Sharing and justice will bring peace. Okay, there's a lot of emotion going on in this poem. Okay, but it's much more active. Okay, in this particular image. Okay, so when we're looking at these, you should be making some of those notes that we've just made alongside of your image. Okay, remember writing on the exam paper, there's absolutely no problem with that. Right? Or if you prefer to write your notes separately, okay, but make sure you're making those notes. You don't want to have to analyze the same thing 3 or 4 times. Get your analysis written down so you don't forget it. Okay. Now we're going to go down to the actual text. So this text comes from somewhere different. The text is from Medium as a Message, The Power of Public Poetry by Martha Bowsells. Okay. So as we go through, we're going to highlight whatever we think is important. No, he has been called a vandal, a street artist, and a punk artist. The word vandal stands out to me there. I'm just going to highlight that. Scottish poet Robert Montgomery has consciously made an awkward space. Okay, so we know we're being asked about him as a poet in question 1. Okay, so we might want to highlight the awkward space for himself. In between artistic categories, and he thoroughly enjoys it. His work puts poetry in front of people, okay, in eye-catching visual formats. From advertising billboards he is covered with poems to words he is set on fire. That's going to stand out, I think. That's not a usual thing. Or lit with recycled sunlight in public spaces, and there's a connection there to image 1. Texts tend to be lyrical, dreamy, and almost optimistic. Okay, I might highlight those 3 words. I feel it's, and then into quotation, I feel it's kind of responsibility to critique things. And I think that's going to be quite important, responsibility to critique things that you think are bad. But I also feel an almost moral obligation to propagate hope. Okay, so you can see I'm highlighting just the key words as I go along. I'm not highlighting the entire sentence. Okay, I'm highlighting the piece of the sentence that's going to make it stand out to me. Right? As soon as I read that key word, that awkward space, I'm going to remember what I was thinking, why I highlighted that. Okay, so I don't need to highlight the whole sentence. That's irrelevant. What's the point of highlighting if you're highlighting everything? Just highlight the really important bits. A new global crisis propelled him to focus his work on climate change. Climate change. I think the ecological crisis we are facing is the major historical crisis of our time, and our generation will be judged on it. By putting poetry in our faces, okay, this is repetition in front of people in our faces, okay, so I might highlight that as well. Montgomery hopes to bring it into the public discourse. Right? We might not know the word discourse, but we can probably figure out that it's referring to conversation. I'm interested in Roland Barthes' idea of speech. The speech defines a culture. Poetry can define the dominant languages we have in culture. And I just like that quote. I think that sounds right. It kind of sums things up. The speech defines a culture. Montgomery approves of another kind of page-leaping phenomenon, the proliferation of Instagram poets. That sounds, something very important. Okay, that could come up. Right, remember, if we're looking back down at the questions below, we said that his approach to poetry, Instagram poets are a new approach to poetry. Who also mixed the written word with careful visual presentations. The internet is a wonderful medium for poetry. Okay, just highlight that as well. He celebrates the fact that poets can garner audiences that bring their work alive before they get a chance to get published. His work seems to have developed into the realm of inspirational quotes for fans. Inspirational quotes are definitely going to be commenting on his poetry, with his poems popping up on selfies, clothes, walls, and bodies. Getting institutional recognition is great, but someone getting tattooed is like a personal compliment. That's going to stand out as something to do with him as an artist, how he views poetry. After all, the goal of art for me is to communicate our innermost feelings to strangers. And then as well. You're going to see I'm highlighting quite a lot, but this is making it much quicker for me just to pick out the points that I need when I'm going back and really thinking about those questions in a minute. Montgomery's work on London billboards has on occasion provoked run-ins with the law. Also going to highlight that. He was put into the back of a police van after he pasted his poem for William Blake on a billboard in Bethnal Green. But I got into a conversation about literature, and one of the police officers was really engaged with it. I guess it was a lucky experience. I think most people wouldn't be averse to having a poem at the end of the street instead of another Diet Coke ad. I'm just going to highlight that as well. Okay, so basically what I've done here is I've gone through and I've picked out a large number of points that I think are going to be useful quotations for when I'm discussing the answers to the questions below. Right? So I will have made all those things I pointed out here. I'll have made written notes alongside. It's a bit hard to do on the computer, but you should be, if you're in an exam, making written notes alongside the images, just quick bullet points, single words. Okay, it doesn't have to be neat. Then down here, I'm just highlighting the things I think might come important. It does not mean I'm going to use everything that I've highlighted. Right? And I don't need to use everything I've highlighted, but these are all things that I might find useful. Okay, so now I'm going to go back down to the questions again. All right, and I'm going to focus on these questions now. So, basically, reading text 1, Robert Montgomery's approach to poetry. Now, my next step would be to go back up here and find out, really think about what is his approach to poetry. And I'm going to try and break that down into a number of key points. So there's 15 marks, so I'm going for 2 to 3 good points. Okay, so I've done this already. I'm just going to skip over to the Word document where I've done it. Okay, and the 3 points I want to say about his poetry is, first of all, there's a modern critique in his poetry. Right, and I'm going to refer to image 1. I can see there's recycled sunlight, and he's talked about an ecological crisis. Okay, so this is his first critique. He's talking about the ecological crisis. Image 2 is also a social critique, and so it's anti-war in this case. But both of those images show him critiquing things. Right? Text, he says, speech defines a culture. And then probably the central quotation I'm going to use here for this first point is that I feel it's kind of responsibility to critique things. Right? So that pretty much makes the point itself. Okay, so when I'm writing this, I want to start off. The first feature of what we learned about his approach to poetry, the first aspect of his approach to poetry that I've learned about is that he feels there's kind of responsibility to critique things, and I'm going to embed that quote, and then I'm going to use those other points to back that point up. Okay, to develop that discussion. Second aspect of his approach to poetry that I've noticed is experimental. Okay, and if I go back to what I've highlighted, I highlighted that awkward space. Okay, that he's between different art forms, so it's experimental. The words he has set on fire stand out as a key image that came out, and his kind of extremism in his work. He commented on Instagram poets. Okay, so the new medium for poetry, and provoked run-ins with the law. All of these are adding into different ways in which he is experimental. I could, of course, go back in and comment on the recycled sunlight again, okay, or the used banner in a public place, okay. But really, I only have a limited amount of time, okay. I'm going to be writing maybe, 3/4 of a page in total for this, so I'm not going to get to say everything I possibly could say, right. And the third point, if I get onto it, okay, I might find that I have enough in the first 2. I may decide that I need to get the third point in. And the third point is his approach is very audience focused, right? And a few quotations you say he puts his poetry in front of people. Okay, clearly a great quotation to show that it's audience focused. Image 2, poetry it's surrounded by people that's in a crowd in an incredibly public place. If you know Trafalgar Square, you can use your background knowledge there. That's a big square and it's very centre of London. And it's there in the middle of a protest surrounded by people. He says he wants to bring their work alive, so he likes the poetry is not something to be pushed away, it's something to be brought to life. Right? And someone getting a tattoo is such a personal compliment that he is very focused on the personal engagement with his audience. Okay. Now, I know this is taking a long time to discuss. This should really take 2 to 3 minutes to jot all of this down. Okay, you're going to be just really fast making quick bullet points yourself. Okay, you're not going to have to explain it all like I am. Okay, quick bullet points. This is what I noticed, this is what I noticed, this is what I noticed. But it's worth putting that time into highlighting, because now I'm not going to have to go back and find any of these things. Okay, I just have them highlighted. Okay, so if I flick back, anything I've pointed out It's just the things I've highlighted. There's the Instagram poets, there's the awkward space, okay? There's the bring their work alive, there's the getting tattooed, okay? And I'm ignoring stuff like I haven't used a vandal, okay? There's a lot of things I haven't used here. I haven't really talked about climate changes, okay? Or, I've used most of it, most feelings to strangers, okay? But they could have been used, they could have been important, and they're important to my thought process and coming up with the points that I wanted to use, okay? So, flicking back, that is, now I'm pretty much ready, to answer part 1 of question A. I have my entire plan written out, okay? And really, that's only going to take, like I said, 2 to 3 minutes to get that done, all right? Part 2 of the question tends to be nowadays a personal response. So I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time here discussing it. We said that, have you benefited from engaging with poetry during your time in school? So have you benefited? It is very much a personal response here. A few things that you could say. You could talk about the appreciation of nature and reflection on human life, comment on Wordsworth's Stormboat and Tintern Abbey. You might talk about Lawrence and Mosquito or Hummingbird or what have they done to you when they couldn't allow to the scene of shining. You might talk about understanding human nature and talk about Boland with love in this moment, or Frost with mending wall or pointed with the night, Lawrence Bavarian Gentian's Baby Movements piano, Dickinson I Felt a Funeral. We could look at social critique, we talk about Niquillan and translation, Frost with Out or Provide, Durkheim with Wife Who Smashed the TV Got Jail, or Girl with the Keys to Pierce's Cottage. It's a personal response. Main thing you're looking at is what have you benefited. Okay, so this term you benefited must come up, and you have to be talking about the poetry. When it says poetry during your time at school, it's quite open. You could go into junior cycle poetry, but really keep your best going with stuff that is fresh in your mind. Okay, just make sure it's a benefit you're talking about. Okay, this quote is quite specific. In your opinion, have you benefited from engaging? You can say no, but again, it's going to be very difficult. Like it's just in terms of this question, they are asking you to say what you benefited from. They're not asking you to say no one benefits from poetry. Okay, it's asking you for your personal enjoyment if you have benefited. Of course, you can say no, I haven't benefited, but you're not. It's going to be quite difficult to develop that discussion. And then question 3, so that's the question you really have to just go back to yourself. Okay, again, you want to break it down to maybe 2 points, 2 ways in which you have benefited. Okay, I've given you 3 there just as different thought processes. Don't have to stick with those at all. They are just some ideas. Again, so that question should be personal. Question 3 is compare. So we said compare was a key word there. Okay, so compare, very, very important. The work, the 2 images. So we're focusing only on the images here. Okay, we don't need to talk about the text. We can bring the text in if we want. We don't need to. Okay, because it says down here, support your answer with reference to both images. Okay, and this is really, really clear. This, as I've said already, gives you the purpose. It is quite clear. Setting an atmosphere, the poems, visual impact. So when I am trying to plan out, I want to be really clear that I'm talking about setting an atmosphere. I'm talking about the poems, and I'm talking about visual impact. It has told me this is what I need to refer to, so I must do this. Okay, so organize yourself in your plan. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfectly neat like it's going to be done on the laptop here, but it should have some organization. So setting an atmosphere, poem, image 1, I'm thinking it is somber because of the mist and the pink glows. I'm just going to flick back to it really quickly. Okay, I think there's a somberness to that. You can see the mist is quite foggy, it's the dullness, and I can see this kind of pink glow. Okay, maybe it's just me seeing that, but I can see it there. Okay, possibly sunset. Also, that is bringing in my aspect of somberness. I'm going to talk about the quiet. Okay, there's no people and there's no life. Alright, it's completely empty. And I'm going to talk about, it seems like it'd be an atmosphere that would promote reflection and perhaps bring the element of it's beside the sea. It's somewhere that seems quiet and somewhere to reflect. Okay. In terms of image 2, it's very, very different. We can see that there's anger. Okay, so we can see the protest posters. Right, we can see that it's active because there's so many people there, and this poem itself and the whole place seems argumentative. It seems like there's turmoil going on. That is because of the disorganization, the amount of people, these placards going up. and what's the subject matter of the war. Okay, so clear, ways to compare here, clear contrast between them. When I look at the poems, I'm going to have to read them now. So this time it's asking me to engage with the text of the poems. The first poem I feel is quite personal. It is emotive and it's spiritual. Okay. Likewise with the second poem, I'm saying motive and spiritual again, but this time it's more of a social critique. Okay. So you're going to go back to the poems themselves and you're going to look at the text. Okay, and maybe pick out a quotation, analyze them very quickly like you would any other poem. Okay, and then finally the visual impact. So I'm looking back at the image again. Use recycled sunlight. Okay, because we've been told that in the image, in the caption, that is recycled sunlight, and that glow, and what that glow represents is that glow kind of a positivity, because there's not really a darkness in the image. It's just a dull light. Perhaps I see that as somewhat positive, and I think that seems to promote contemplating the world in those surroundings. In contrast, the bold print on black of the poem printed in the second image, it's very much strong in promoting action and a harsh message because of the bold print. Okay, so there I have first paragraph. I'm going to look at setting an atmosphere. I'm going to make these 2 points about image 1, points about image 2. Paragraph 2, I'm going to look at poems, and I'm going to compare and contrast. And then paragraph 3, I'm going to look at visual impact, and I'm going to compare and contrast. Okay, and each paragraph is going to look at be about half an A4 page of standard writing. Okay, so that is a very brief. Now it's it takes a long time to explain all of this. This should only take a few minutes to actually do. Okay, now it's question A. You get 50 minutes or 50 marks, so you want to spend roughly about 45-50 minutes doing this. Okay, so you have the time to spend reading through it, analysing it, and getting your thoughts clear before you start writing. Don't just start writing and rambling. Okay, focus, have a clear cut approach to what you're going to do. Okay.